Welcome back, friends, to another episode of Alchemy Online. This week, boys and girls, you're gonna bust out the bell bottoms because Trick Tips with Coach is about to start off, and we're doing one of my favorites. That's right, we're talking about hippie jumps. So for those of you who are unfamiliar, hippie jumps have nothing to do with Woodstock, but they're a very fun skateboard trick in which our board goes under an obstacle, we jump off our board and go over the obstacle. This is a great starter trick for folks to get comfortable leaving their board and landing on their board, but it's a lot of times easier to tackle than some of the other classics like drop-ins and ollies. So to do hippie jumps, all you need is your board and an obstacle that your board fits under. We're using this nice flat bar here at the park, but if you've never done hippie jumps before, we don't want to start with that obstacle, so we are going to get it out of here. We're going to start on the flat ground, getting comfortable jumping off our board and landing on our board, and then putting those pieces together and then incorporating our obstacle. So go ahead and stretch out and let's work on these hippie jumps. If you've watched any of our trick tips, you know we're big nerds about breaking things down. So before we try anything with an obstacle, we're going to isolate the different pieces. The first piece is learning to jump off of your board. So all you're going to do is push off, get your feet set, and practice jumping. The key element of jumping off our board is what foot we're jumping off of. If we're in our normal riding stance, we've got our back foot on the tail, front foot on the bolts. If you jump off of your back foot, what's gonna happen is the board's gonna lift up. So as we're jumping, think about jumping off of that front foot so our board stays flat and we're jumping forward and away from the board. So if your back foot and you jump, it lifts up, but that's scary. So instead, weight on the front foot and jump off that way. Once you feel good jumping off the board, we can start to practice jumping on the board. We recommend having your board stationary in front of you, getting a little slow run up, jumping, and really focusing on where your feet are landing. If your feet are close together, we have no balance and no control. So we want to land right into that proper stance. Back foot on our tail, front foot on the bolts, should look like this. If you're feeling good landing on that board and rolling, the last step we're going to practice is getting our board rolling ahead of time and jumping onto a moving board. So simply give the board a little roll, run up, and jump. If jumping off your board and jumping back onto your board is feeling good, guess what? It's time to put them together and practice the hippie jump. We recommend before adding the obstacle in, get used to jumping off and landing onto your board while rolling. Sometimes it's nice to use a piece of chalk or a piece of tape to mark where that obstacle is going to be because timing is important. If you jump too late, you're clipping the bar. If you jump too early, you might not land. So practice that hippie jump while moving, but don't worry about the obstacle until it feels good to leave your board and land back on it. Then we can start to get weird with our rail. At this point, you guys have all the pieces of the puzzle and it's time to put them together. So bust out that rail or whatever obstacle you're gonna be jumping over. Make sure it's tall enough for your board to go under. And starting out, the smaller the obstacle, the easier it is. Having that line of sight for your board is gonna make it easier to land on it. Go ahead, do those things we practiced, put them together, jump over the rail. Common problems with the hippie jump. On takeoff, the most common problem is we're either not jumping high enough or, more than likely, you're jumping off of your back foot, which is lifting the nose and hitting the obstacle. So again, remember, as we jump off, we want the weight on that front foot so the board stays smooth, flat, and rolls under our obstacle. The other most common problem with landing our hippie jumps is exactly that. It's landing on the board. So remember, as you jump, you gotta stay calm, you gotta stay confident, and you gotta look where you're going. So you wanna watch that board as it passes under the bar. Remember when you're jumping off of your front foot, but make sure you're not pushing the board back because it needs to continue going with you. And again, practice makes perfect. If you're having trouble landing, get rid of that obstacle. Go back to our basics, stomp a few without it, come on back to the obstacle, and you'll be hippie jumping in no time. As soon as your hippie jumps are starting to feel good, remember you can always make them harder by throwing in some varieties. Try them fakie, try them switch, throw a little body varial as you do your hippie jump. Maybe shove it under the bar as you do your hippie jump, or finding different spots in the world. There's all kinds of insane bank to hippie jump options. If you're getting good, feeling confident, go out there and the world is yours to hippie jump.